I've been asked lately about why T-Roy don't run with women. And it's an embarrassing thing for him, and there's a story behind it. It's a true story that happened way back when we was in high school. T-Roy had a crush on the prettiest, most feminine woman that I've ever seen. She was the prettiest girl in our class, and there was no one debating it. And T-Roy had a terrible crush on her, but T-Roy's a big kid, big boy. He's always been real chubby. He's had them cookie top, that belly top muffin thing that goes on around there since he was little, big one. I don't think he's seen his feet in a long time. But there's a lot of people. I got a pretty good poncho on me too. I ain't talking bad about him, but he's just always been like that, and he had that crush on that girl. And it finally come up that when she was in the end of her 8th grade year before she started her freshman year, she was in an accident and lost her right eye. And back then, you didn't have no place to go when a child needed something like that. You didn't just go off to the Shiners or them Portland Shrin people up there that do that for children. And so her daddy, the Cup family's been around a long time. The Cups are an old name around here, but they didn't have a lot of money. They still don't have a lot of money. And back then, there was nothing you could do. Just if you didn't have money, weren't forced to fix it. So they carved her a wooden eye. And they did a good job. It wasn't some cheap sounding terrible thing. It was a really pretty wooden eye, and it had a nice grain to it. And they painted a little blue eye right in the center, a little blue part. I wouldn't have done blue, looking back on it, because her other eye was brown. I would have done them the same color, but those folks, the Cups, have always raised those Australian Shepherds. And I think that because of that, they got to thinking they would do that. Now, not to get off a tangent, because I go off on tangents sometimes on my storytelling. I don't mean to, but there's a little side thing here that's amazing. That girl's name was Retna, named after her aunt something, and her middle name was Solo, because her great-great-grandmother had some kind of Asian in her, and her name had a Solo in it. So her name was Retna Solo. Now, if that isn't some if that isn't unusual, I don't know what is. Retna Solo, and then she winds up just before she starts high school with one eye. Solo. Anyway, that's a side note, and I don't mean to get sidetracked, but he had a terrible crush on her. And he oftentimes wanted to go talk to her, but he'd get stupid and couldn't even do it. And he'd always looking at her, and he'd look away feeling bad staring at her, but he had told me lots of times how he was just lovesick over her. So finally we had our sophomore dance, our sophomore year. We got us a big dance we had. We were all standing in there, and here come Retna walking across the floor. She walked right up to T-Roy, and she looked him right in the eye with that good eye, and she said, "T-Roy Eugene Blevins, would you dance with me?" And his eyes got big, and he said, "Would I?" And she jumped back and said, "Fatso!" And that was it. That was the end of T-Roy's romance years. It broke his heart. He went to the gym, and her daddy was there. Mr. Cup was there, and he come over hollering at T-Roy, and we left. I was right there with him because I've always been his best friend. And we went to the gym, and he was in there crying. It's kind of tearing me up a little bit right now because it was really sad, and it still is sad. And I didn't know what to say, so I just looked at T-Roy. And I looked him right in the eye, and I said, "T-Roy, Retna Solo Cup just broke your heart." And that's a true story.